I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Bowling Green Board of Commissioners for February 19th, 2019, and invite our police chaplain, Mike Holian, to come up and provide the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Commissioner Denning. I invite you to stand if you like.
Let's pray. As this commission meets this afternoon to serve the Bowling Green community, we ask your blessings on our mayor and commissioners. May they act wisely in their responsibility to serve as trusted elected servants. Be with them as they deliberate the many issues facing our community. May they use their best judgment in keeping our city doing what is best for all our fellow citizens, and guide their hearts in the spirit of fairness and the needs of our city. Thank you for being our source of guidance this day and for all the many blessings you have provided to our community. We humbly ask this in your precious and holy name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Perigin.
Here.
Commissioner Beasley Brown.
Here.
Commissioner Denning.
Here.
Commissioner Nash.
Here.
Mayor Wilkerson.
Here. Do we have any awards or recognitions tonight, sir?
Don't.
Anyone on the commission? All right. Do we have any comments tonight?
We have a need for a special session afterwards. Ashley will read the reason.
Pursuant to KRS 61.810(1)B, for the purpose of deliberations on the future acquisition of real property by the city, as publicity would likely affect the value of the specific piece of property to be acquired by the city.
So moved.
By Denning, second by Perigin. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Perigin.
Yes.
Beasley Brown.
Yes.
Denning.
Yes.
Nash.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes, the first item is approval of minutes from our regular meeting on February 5th, 2019.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Perigin, second by Nash. And any additions, deletions, or corrections? Please call the roll.
Perigin.
Yes.
Beasley Brown.
Yes.
Denning.
Yes.
Nash.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. First item is second reading of ordinance BG 2019, number 2.
Ordinance rezoning real estate. Ordinance rezoning tracts of land containing 39.71 acres from RS1A Single Family Residential, RM4 Multifamily Residential, GB General Business, and HB Highway Business to HB Highway Business located at 0 Campbell Lane, presently owned by Bell and Kentucky Family Limited Partnership, with Menards Incorporated as contract vendee.
So moved.
Second.
Perigin, second by Denning. This is second reading of a unanimous recommendation from Planning and Zoning. Are there any comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Perigin.
Yes.
Beasley Brown.
Yes.
Denning.
Yes.
Nash.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes, Municipal Order 2019-26.
Municipal order approving the probationary appointment of Randall Cochran to the position of Parks Facility Maintainer, Senior, in the Cemetery Division of the Parks and Recreation Department.
Moved. Second.
Motion by Nash, second by Denning. Mr. Mizel.
We have a vacant position in the cemetery division, and I'd like to ask Erin Holsey, our HR director, to come up and make a recommendation.
Good afternoon. We have had a position open in the cemetery due to the promotion of Mitch Davenport to crew supervisor in late 2018. The position is a work group leader that works towards the completion of all maintenance functions, including burials within the cemetery division. We received 15 applications. We ended up interviewing 4 of those applicants. The interview panel consisted of Brent Belcher and Kathy Maroney from the Parks Department and Tiger Tooley from the Human Resources Department. We are recommending Mr. Randall Cochran for this position. Randall, would you like to stand, please? Randall has most recently worked with Reynolds Sealing and Stripping for the last 3 years, which was preceded by a 2-year stint with Neil Lavelle Supply Company. In addition, he served with the U.S. Marine Corps for 7 years. Randall has a Class A CDL license and is well-versed in all the level of equipment and tools associated with the job. Parks Department is confident that Randall will make a tremendous impact on our department and continue the long tradition of great service within the cemetery division. I'm available if you have any questions.
Comments or questions? Call the roll.
Perigin.
Yes.
Beasley Brown.
Yes.
Denning.
Yes.
Nash.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Congratulations, Randall. Look forward to working.
Since we had a cemetery issue, I might have should have mentioned it in the announcements, and I forgot, but cemetery staff will begin their annual spring cleanup this Friday, March the 1st. And so if you have loved ones that are buried at Fairview Cemetery and there are items around their grave and those items have fallen onto the ground or they've become faded, the city encourages you to pick those up prior to Friday. Otherwise, park staff will be picking up those items so that they can do the spring cleanup. Since we had a cemetery item on the agenda, I thought I'd mention it.
Appreciate that, thank you. Next item is Municipal Order 2019-27.
Municipal order authorizing and accepting bid number 2019-41 for auditing services for Mount Joy Chilton Medley CPAs and Advisors LLP of Louisville, Kentucky, beginning with fiscal year 2018-2019 and extending through fiscal year 2022-2023.
So moved.
Second.
By Denning, second by Nash.
Over the years, we have considered it good practice to bid out our auditing services every 5 years. With the completion of the FY18 audit, we are now into a new term, and so that completed a 5-year term. Deborah Jenkins, our internal auditor, led the audit committee in going out for requests for proposals back in November. They received 5 proposals back, back in January to evaluate those proposals, and the audit committee voted to recommend retaining Mount Joy Chilton Medley CPAs for the next 5 years. This recommendation does build in the rotation of the engagement partner in the first year, and then we'll rotate the manager on the audit in year 2. And Deborah is here if you have any questions on this.
Comments or questions?
Jeff,
And I'm
If you
sorry,
would-
Commissioner Denning is on that committee.
if you would, explain why we chose to do this as far as changing the managers and not letting them stay at,
Okay. Take that, Deborah? Make her trip worthwhile.
Deborah Jenkins, our internal auditor.
Yes, back in 2006, whenever I first came on board with the city, one of the things that we implemented was having an audit committee. Part of that is they pulled who's going to keep the contract for that. One of the things that you want to look for is you don't want complacency to become a factor whenever it's anything audit, fresh eyes, new set of eyes, those sorts of things. And we felt with sending this contract out that Mount Joy was a large enough firm and the department was happy with them, but that it was time that in order to keep those fresh set of eyes out there, that we would build in some rotation of officers to make sure that that there's new eyes that look at this.
Comments or questions?
thank you,
ma'am.
Deborah.
Please call the roll.
Perigin.
Yes.
Beasley Brown.
Yes.
Denning.
Yes.
Nash.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. Municipal Order 2019-28.
Municipal order authorizing and accepting bid number 2019-44 for rehabilitation to Parker Bennett Outdoor Courts and replacement fencing from Scotty's Contracting and Stone LLC of Bowling Green, Kentucky, in the total amount of $169,438.51.
So moved.
Motion by Nash, second by Perigin. Mr. Mizel.
The courts at Parker Bennett Community Center are in desperate need of an extreme makeover, I guess you would say. We have resurfaced them over the years, and you can only take so many resurfacings. And so we went out for bid, got 2 bids from Scotty's and Deweese to demolish, dispose of all the existing asphalt courts, do drainage improvements, replace stones, do the whole works, new asphalt surface, new striping, as well as an alternate to do the fencing around it as well. It needs a new fence. So the bids came in, and Scotty's came in with the lowest bid. With the alternate, would total $169,438, and we're recommending to accept that bid. Brent is here if you have any further questions
Are there any comments or
on this
questions?
project.
Please call the roll.
Perigin.
Yes.
Beasley Brown.
Yes.
Denning.
Yes.
Nash.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes, Municipal Order 2019-29.
Municipal order authorizing and accepting bid number 2019-33 for McClellan Road Widening Project from Scotty's Contracting and Stone LLC of Bowling Green, Kentucky, in the amount of $156,499.05.
Moved.
Second.
Motion by Nash, second by Perigin. Mr. Mizel.
Also in this year's budget was some work planned on McClellan Road to widen that intersection where it meets Nashville Road to alleviate some traffic congestion. This incorporates excavation, drainage piping, asphalt paving, roadway striping, the whole project, water line relocation, that sort of thing. The total length of what we're doing is about 1,000 feet, and we went out for bid, only got the one bid from Scotty's. We also got some reimbursements from some developers that are going to do some commercial around that corner in the amount of $45,652. So net cost us with that $45,652, taking that off the $156,499, it's going to bring this project down to about $111,000 to get this done. So we're recommending approval for Scotty's construction, Scotty's contracting for this project. And Greg Merritt is here if you have any questions.
Comments or questions?
I drove the road the other day, and I don't know where it falls. There's Greg. I don't know where it falls on the repaving, but the length of McClellan is pretty rough. I like that we're widening, but going further back towards the subdivision. I don't know what that subdivision is called, unfortunately. I can't think of it.
Greystone?
That it seems pretty rough. Could it be considered for while we're already there, or does that not make sense?
To a point, it does. Of course, we evaluate all of our roads a third every year. So in 3 years, we have a contract engineering firm that comes and measures deflection, cracking in pavement, potholes, that sort of thing. So we compare, it's kind of like the sidewalk program, we compare apples to apples. And so we certainly can look at that section and see where it is. Probably next month, the consultant will be in to do another third of our roads, and we'll certainly check it out. As far as economy of scale, you know, to go further, not
long road.
always. It depends. It depends on the situation, but we can look into it.
Okay, thank you.
Other comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Perigin.
Yes.
Beasley Brown.
Yes.
Denning.
Yes.
Nash.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. Municipal Order 2019-30.
Municipal order correcting an original KRS 81.045 filing related to ordinance number BG 8043 and adopting a modern and accurate legal description of territory previously annexed by ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Denning, second by Nash. Mr. Mizel.
This is one of the many cleanups we are still working on with our mapping and legal descriptions on some old annexations for the Secretary of State's office. This particular one, if you look on your map, it's kind of the south side of Morgantown Road, or southwest side, just past the Natcher Parkway. And again, this is just to appease the Secretary of State's office and get this one correctly mapped and submitted.
Next item is the same.
And the next item is the same thing, and
same
it
deal.
pertains to a tract of land on Three Springs Road that backs up to I-65, same situation. These are back from 1980, correct, Ashley?
Comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Perigin.
Yes.
Beasley Brown.
Yes.
Denning.
Yes.
Nash.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. Municipal Order 2019-31.
Municipal order correcting an original KRS 81.045 filing related to ordinance number BG 8047 and adopting a modern and accurate legal description of territory previously annexed by ordinance.
Moved.
Second.
Perigin, second by Nash. You already heard the description of what's going on. Are there any other comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Perigin.
Yes.
Beasley Brown.
Yes.
Denning.
Yes.
Nash.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. Municipal Order 2019-32.
Municipal order waiving fees related to the use of Circus Square Park by Sky Science Festival Incorporated for the Sky Science Festival on April 26 and 27, 2019.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Perigin, second by Denning. Mr. Mizel.
This is a request from the Sky Science Festival, Inc. This would be their third year to do this festival at Circus Square. According to past protocol, we come to you all when there's a request for no rent, free rental. And so this event is planning to take place on Saturday, April 27th, and they're asking for no charge to use Circus Square Park. Brent Belcher has been in contact with them if you have any questions about this.
Comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Perigin.
Yes.
Beasley Brown.
Yes.
Denning.
Yes.
Nash.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Municipal Order 2019-33.
Municipal order authorizing the acceptance of a grant from the New American Economy and Welcoming America through the Gateways for Growth Challenge grant in the amount of $12,500.
Second.
Nash, second.
This is a grant we have been awarded from the Gateways for Growth in the amount of $12,500. And what this is for is it takes a look at our substantial number of our new American population here in Bowling Green, and a lot of them, I say a lot, but several are working out or traveling and working outside of Bowling Green when we've got 6,000 jobs, or at least 3,000 to 4,000 just here in Warren County that they could be hopefully plugged into. So this is a study that's going to help us with using these funds to develop a strategic plan which utilizes the research product described above to connect these people with available employment and career services that are right here in our backyard. So, this looks like a good program to me. And Lada's here to answer any questions. So is Nick on this program that we received funding for.
Comments or questions?
Perigin.
Yes.
Beasley Brown.
Yes.
Denning. Nash.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. Number 10.
I go from here. Ordinance number BG 2019-3.
Ordinance rezoning real estate. Ordinance rezoning a portion of attractive land containing 0.23 acre from RM4 multifamily residential to GB general business located at 0 Campbell Lane, presently owned by Sandra Stewart, with Buckhead Kitchen and Bar LLP, care of Caitlin Davis as contract vendee.
So moved.
Second.
Yeah.
I did? Okay. Anybody have questions or comments?
I have a couple. Ben?
Sir.
Can you put this document up on the
Land use map?
gizmo, please?
Yeah. Land use map.
Okay. Can you show by your finger the site that we're talking about?
It'd be this northwest corner here, at the corner of the property, which is the southeast corner of Campbell Lane and Thoroughbred Drive, right here where the hand is.
All right. Campbell Lane is to the top and Thoroughbred Drive is to the left of the project.
Correct.
Now, show me where the proposed new apartment building is gonna be with your gizmo. That's already been approved by this body, the apartments.
The Simpson project.
Yeah, so let me get my bearings. It would, you have to follow the hand here, so this is Mohawk Drive, this is Thimblefinger. So if you, it's this piece here, and then it's kind of that L-shaped, and then goes down to Campbell Lane here. So there's, it concludes these two parcels here, and these individual ones there, and then this length of property here connecting to Mohawk.
And that last property at the bottom of the screen will have an egress on the backside.
Best of my memory, yes, it'll have a gated ingress egress to the property, yes.
And the other ingress is gonna be up,
Campbell
based
Lane.
on this diagram, excuse me, off of Campbell Lane?
Correct.
Off of, I thought it was coming in.
There'll be an access road that comes in off of Campbell Lane and goes through the property, and then makes the turn and then connects to Mohawk, and then the Mohawk end would be gated is the best of my memory on that one.
Okay. I know in previous conversations, there were some questions pertaining to the traffic pattern. Let's go to the site in question up at the corner.
Mhm.
Where will the traffic go into that that site?
So there's a new entrance proposed off a thoroughbred, approximately 160 feet back from the intersection of Campbell Lane and Thoroughbred, so it'll be off of Thoroughbred. So you'll turn off, you'll have to come off of Campbell Lane if you're on Campbell Lane and go about 160 feet down Thoroughbred, and then you'll turn into the development of a proposed new entrance as shown on the concept plan or preliminary development plan that was in the packet.
So there will be no service out on Thoroughbred. In other words, there'll be no stopping of vehicles or any blockage of Thoroughbred fare traffic. In other words, everything that the trucks are going to do as far as service is going to be inside the site off of Thoroughbred. Am I right?
Correct. So they'll build an asphalt pad in this corner. The food trucks, as proposed in the plan, would line against Campbell Lane, 25 feet off the property line, and then the entrance to that new commercial parking lot would be down here about 160 feet away, and then they would have to travel back up to where the food trucks will set. The concrete pad is about, as drawn, is 100 by 125. Or asphalt, I'm sorry.
And I'm sure this site did not require any type of traffic study.
That is correct.
How many trucks are expected to be in on that pad?
So at the public hearing, it was stated that there would be 3 to 4 food trucks. The preliminary development plan shows 3. And it's my understanding that they will be stationary. They will lease those spots out, kind of like booths, and that they would remain there in the same position. And they would have the ability to go off-site and go to events or whatever, but that would be kind of their home base.
I don't have any other right now. I may have before the discussion is over with. Mayor, thank you.
A question
Ma'am.
regarding this. So, I guess, and I don't want to question somebody's business plan, but in my mind, food trucks go where people are, and I don't see a lot of people on that corner these days, or a lot of foot traffic, but say, you know, if it makes it, it's great, it's wonderful. If it doesn't, not to be a skeptic,
Sure.
what then could that parcel of land be used for? What does general business allow?
So general business is kind of a mixed-use zone. It does allow RM3, which is multifamily development, up to 8 plexes, and the density depends on how big the lot is. So it does allow multifamily, but it also allows kind of the lighter commercial side up to, by zoning ordinance, 10,000 square feet. Now, in their development plan proposal, they are limited to no bigger than a 4,000 square foot building, should they ever decide to build a permanent structure there. So it'd be up to a 4,000 square foot commercial structure.
Well, they could build a Subway or a Pizza Hut or something like that that will probably generate substantial more traffic than, I think I read there was like 13 parking spots here, so it's not likely they're going to have a glut of cars coming through there. But, and I don't know if this is a fair question or not, but I noticed that there were 2 no votes. And I don't want you to get in the heads there, but
Sure.
At the meeting, what were the objections?
Traffic flow was and usually always is every part of every zoning application. And then I think food trucks, as you kind of alluded to earlier, are generally set up for foot traffic. And so one of the concerns was the pedestrian and the safety with the amount of traffic, how wide Campbell Lane is especially. And then it also came up about the proximity of the junior high across the street. Not so much during school hours, since the kids aren't allowed to leave school, or not supposed to anyway, during school hours, but certainly at after-hours events.
Well, and like in my son's case, he's a walker. And yeah, he would probably go for a taco, no doubt. But that would be okay with me.
Yeah. Well, that's what was brought up, and I can't speak to.
Okay. So nothing about impact on the neighborhood or, because there's really no
yes.
residents around there except the apartments.
Yeah, so there was, it was brought up also about safety as far as how would they provide security on the site. With security cameras was the answer. It was also brought up about the number of police calls to the adjacent apartments. And then you said one other thing that just slipped my mind that was discussed also.
Property values?
Property values, yes, that was mentioned as well, and just, so it's most of your typical concerns.
Yeah. Back to the cameras, because that's really good. Glad to hear, because there is a lot, it's an inordinate amount of calls out there. Would they have lighting by poles with cameras attached to them, or cameras attached, or are the trucks going to be the only source of lighting? What kind of-
Lighting was mentioned. There's no requirement or commitment on a specific style lighting. They did mention that they would have some sort of security lights and, of course, security cameras. They also mentioned that they would not be in operation past 9 p.m. at that location. But again, there's no commitment specifically for that.
It's the plan now.
But that's the plan now, yes.
Okay. It's my one objection, not objection, just concern is what if this doesn't work? Hope it does, because I hope every business makes it. What then would that piece of property
Right.
be able to be used for?
The short answer is pretty much anything in the general business zone, allowed in the general business zone, with a maximum of 4,000 square feet as they've limited themselves to in the development plan.
Okay. Ben, the materials that we received indicated that the proposed development complies with a majority of the site characteristics review criteria. Can you tell me what characteristics it does not comply with?
Sure. So that's a general term, obviously, that we use in our staff report. The ones they do not comply with, is that what that's what you asked? Let me scan through here. Compliance is subjective by the Planning Commission, and of course you have in this case, there were 10 planning commissioners there, but natural features, one of the things we noted was a large sinkhole encompasses a majority of the property. That can be overcome with engineering and design, but we note that. As a whole, the general character is a commercial parking lot is not found kind of in that corridor standalone along Campbell Lane. So that was something that was mentioned in the staff report. Let's see. Those are the only ones that stand out to me just skimming through here. And so obviously the majority of them, they met of it just being a commercial zone and parking being allowed there.
One of the issues, thank you for that answer. One of the issues as I read through it talked about compatibility. How do you establish compatibility on a parking lot that's going to accommodate food trucks when there are no other parking lots that are designed to accommodate food trucks in Bowling Green that I'm aware of? We have lots of parking lots where food trucks drive on, park, but we don't have any parking lots that remain parking lots the entire time with their only designated purpose is to hold food trucks.
Summed it up, the question nicely, and that is the question before the Planning Commission, which they gave the recommendation for, and that, of course, is the question before you tonight. That is your decision to help define that. Is it compatible or not? So when the comprehensive plan outlines basically two basic tests, we put it in four analysis, but it's two basic tests. Is the proposed use compatible with the future land use map in the category? And in this case it is. But then there's the compatibility test, and that's where comes some of those subjective items that then it's left up to the decision makers to make that determination. And we try to provide the best analysis we can, but ultimately it's your decision.
One of the other points to consider, and I call it that because that's how it's listed in the packet that Planning and Zoning provides to both us and the Planning and Zoning Commissioners, says that there are other properties located in the area that could accommodate a food truck without rezoning.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Is there anybody here that can speak to why those other properties aren't being considered and only this one is?
I'm going to try to go for it. One of you two.
I need to be sworn in. I'm used to coming to planning commission meetings and not city commission.
No swearing in, unless the mayor says so.
He's kind of not here, is he? I think they did look at other properties, and they didn't want to have to worry about going into a short-term lease with.
For the record, though, will you identify who you are and who you're with? I know who you are,
Yes.
but.
I'm Brian Shirley with Arnold Consulting Engineering Services, 1136 South Park Drive, Bowling Green, Kentucky. And I do swear to tell the truth. I think they did look at some other pieces of property, but they wanted this to be kind of a unique proposition. This is kind of a new land use that has not been really brought to the front here in Bowling Green, but there are a lot of examples in Nashville, other bigger cities. I don't know if y'all are familiar with Seaside down in Florida. They've also got a strip of 6 or 8 trailers or food trucks that are parked actually on the sidewalk. It creates a different dynamic. But again, it's a totally different land use than we've had here. But I think they wanted to separate it just from just any parking lot in town, that this being new, it would give its own identity. And again, they will have the opportunity to pull these or drive these to other places in town during other events, but they wanted to have kind of a home base to work from.
In those other communities that you spoke of, do those trucks pull out every evening? So the ones like, it almost seems silly to compare Seaside, Florida to
Right.
Bowling Green, Kentucky, but I do
That is a stretch.
understand that what we're talking about is
Right.
just the concept of the food trucks.
I think probably in 75 or 80% of them, they do stay where they are.
They do stay overnight on the
Yes.
sidewalk.
Right.
Okay, all right. And then another question I have is, and I don't know if this is for you or for Ben, whoever wants to take it, was the school system consulted in relation to the amount of foot traffic of students that may be coming across the street
Did
to
not
the
have,
food truck area?
we did not have any direct conversations with the school. I think that was brought up in the planning commission meeting. But one of the things that was not brought up is this is a signalized intersection, and there are pedestrian crossings at that point. So part of our thinking is being at a corner with a signal, with the pedestrian heads, that would be a safer location to cross than some of the other places that could have been proposed.
What about traffic impacts? And I know that studies were not done because they weren't triggered, and oftentimes studies don't show us what we think they're going to show us anyway. But is there any way to estimate, or have the developers estimated or considered the amount of traffic that would turn out of the lot and take a left and drive into the neighborhood, an existing long-term residential area of Bowling Green, as opposed to turning right and heading out onto larger thoroughfares?
I wouldn't have that data. My assumption would be that 99% of the traffic is going to be coming from Campbell Lane, and that those people would probably go back out to Campbell Lane. With the traffic counts on Campbell Lane, they're trying to take advantage of those numbers. But unless somebody lives back in the neighborhood, I wouldn't see where they would have a need or desire to go back out that way.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
And one other question for you. Is the school systems, are adjoining properties contacted, sought input from, or do they read the yellow sign that gets stuck in the ground and it's incumbent upon them to show up to share their opinions?
More the latter than the former, but I'm glad you asked that question. So one of the changes we made in our last changes in the zoning ordinance is we took the additional step of notifying everybody within 200 feet of the proposed property to be rezoned, in addition to the things we were already doing. So yes, it's the sign and incumbent to see it and all of that. We did not direct call the Bowling Green Independent School System to get comment, but we do, they did at least get the letter.
They did get a letter.
They did get a letter, in addition to the sign going up, and of course, it's in the newspaper.
And then last questions, and then I'll turn it back over to the mayor. And that is, with as I read here, the natural features, the majority of the property is encompassed by a large sinkhole. Mm-hmm. What, if anything, has to be done? I'm sorry, I have another question, I just remembered. What, if anything, has to be done to this piece of property related to that sinkhole?
So Mr. Shirley might be able to answer that better, being at ACES, but essentially we have a sinkhole layer that we consult that was done several years ago, decades ago at this point, that identifies where sinkholes are, and it identifies where potential for sinkholes are. And so that's what that statement is referring to in the staff report. As far as what has to be done, they will have to evaluate the site. If any sinkholes are discovered, then there's an approved method for engineering the fix to that to allow that to happen. So that usually comes later in the design phase after rezoning.
Last question. How often is one parcel of property, only one portion of a larger piece of property asked for rezoning and not the whole property?
So split zoning a piece of property, it actually happens quite a bit. It's fairly common. Typically, when someone brings a property in, it's the whole property at once because they have a plan or a use for the whole property. But it's not uncommon to split zone for multiple uses either, and to do that. Hope House, we had a couple
Yeah,
months ago.
we had
where
a building.
We split the building, and you think
sure
about
did.
downtown, the row of buildings, they might have different uses, so you could split it up that way too.
And are there pros and cons of doing that?
Certainly, there's pros and cons to this style of zoning. Anytime you draw a box or create any kind of regulatory box, then obviously there's things that aren't thought of, and this is probably one. We evolve faster than our regulations sometimes, so I think there are pros and cons, and so this is partly why we had to call this commercial parking, because there's no structure proposed. But commercial parking is allowed in the commercial zone, so that's kind of where this come from. But it doesn't necessarily mean we have a specific use that was brought forth for this type of style of development.
And is this where the ingress and egress would be to this property regardless of whether or not this was being proposed today?
So, not
Apologize.
necessarily.
I think that's 4 questions.
Yeah,
past
that's okay.
My last question.
That's okay.
I
We're
apologize for that.
starting to get used to it here. No, so the original proposal, if you can kind of see this existing, should be on your screen. I gotcha. So that's kind of an existing entrance. That's kind of a remnant, I guess. It was already there. That was the original proposal, to use that. In consultation with Bowling Green Public Works, it was decided that based on speed, based on this being a signalized intersection, that was too close, based on the traffic manual, the standards we have. The second thought was to have them come off of this here and go all the way up, but the traffic manual standards only required about 150 feet of distance between the Campbell Lane Thoroughbred intersection, so that's why it was settled on. The Public Works agreed to allow the 160-foot entrance back to where they would come. They put in a new entrance 160 foot back. So there's a traffic standard manual that was followed to establish that entrance. So
That entrance to the prison entrance here.
I don't. I'm not sure if you have the full Planning Commission packet or not. It was page 11 of 28 in the planning staff report. I'm not sure what number that would be in your commission packets, but that development plan shows where that existing entrance is, so it's almost double the distance. So if you go twice the distance from the intersection to this existing entrance, it's that much distance almost again.
What Commissioner Denning was asking, I believe, is how far is the proposed entrance, not the existing, but the proposed, from the existing road that leads back to the other apartments?
Okay, so from here to where I got you.
Yeah.
So 100 feet? About 100 feet is what Greg's telling me.
Why do we not go into the person's street?
Well, that's a private drive there, I think, Commissioner Denning. And it's also mixed, it's residential or multifamily, I guess, is that. But it's a private entrance. It's not a city-maintained street. So if you see that little dark spot on the side of the property, that's in the area of a utility pole. And so the entrance is just on the Campbell Lane side of that utility pole. So it's about as far away as you could get without, that we were worried when we looked at this, based upon the requirements that Ben mentioned, that we'd get too close to that existing multifamily entrance. There could be conflicts for the people in the neighborhood that maybe wanted to go eat and turn left, and somebody was turning right out of the other access point. So it was a spacing call that we made to try to put it in the best place possible.
When you say I understand it's a private drive, does that mean we can't, and maybe that's planning and zoning, we can't ask?
No, we could have
We
asked.
could ask them to connect
They
into
could
that
have
private
asked.
drive so that
Sure.
those that are coming out of, it's not Royal Arms. No, the apartment on the other side of Thoroughbred. Yeah, but I can't think of the name of it. Because that private drive matches up with an ingress egress point of the property on the other side of it, so that you have people coming in and out on the road at the same place. And now we're going to have another place about 100 feet up where people are going to be coming out. It seems like bringing them and connecting them so everybody's coming out at 2 points as opposed to 3 makes it safer, cuts down on people trying to pull out. Traffic of the morning on Thoroughbred really, what do you call it in the public works world? Stacks up on Thoroughbred as they try to get out onto Campbell Lane. So I just wonder why we wouldn't at least approach them about making that kind of connection.
And they could have done that, but as far as our standards, we couldn't make them do that. I mean, if you go down toward Nashville Road, what is it, Harvard, and then there's Fields. I think at Harvard, there's a signal on Campbell Lane, and there's a couple of access points that are even closer than the ones that they proposed here to the road. So, our standard is that, I'm sorry?
And they're a nightmare.
Anyway, right. But it meets, our requirements and so that's where it's at.
Thank you. No further questions right now.
I'll just add to that, we did ask them to come off of that access point, and
They declined?
they declined, and yes, that was when it was looked at the requirements of what we could make them do through the traffic manual. And
My 8th question, now from a legal perspective, if it were denied could it be denied when it's not a requirement?
Or the developer is doing this to answer the question, but the other people who have that private drive may have what they view also as good legitimate reasons not to want somebody else coming off their private drive. That creates liability for them as well. It would have been additional cost for the developers because this is not a public street. I'm not sure what all went into that factor of not wanting to connect, but the property owners may not have wanted that connection either. I don't know whether that was ever discussed.
Understand. Thank you. I'm really done.
I want to explain my vote, but I don't know if I do that now or after we vote. Okay. So this was a really hard decision for me, and I'm grateful for us walking through it the way we have this evening. I personally love food trucks, and I would love to have some food trucks across from my workplace and be able to choose lots of things for lunch because I get a very small lunch window. However, I had a really hard time proving that this was compatible with this particular area. Based on the testimony and the documents presented at the public hearing on January 27th, which I thoroughly reviewed and asked lots of questions to the planning and zoning and just making sure I understood it thoroughly, I find the proposed zoning map amendment not compatible with this specific area. Although this request passes the future land use map test and meets the goal and objective laid out in the section ED1 and ED3 in our comprehensive plan as a small business and entrepreneurial endeavor that will diversify the economy, This rezoning request does not pass the compatibility test in section LU 1.1.3, in my opinion, of the comprehensive plan, which requires a rezoning request to be compatible with the existing character and development pattern in this section of the Campbell Lane Thoroughbred Drive corridor. Nor does it pass the test in section LU 2.5.2 and HN1 of the comprehensive plan, which requires a zoning change request to protect the character of the existing neighborhood. Based on these findings, I believe that the best decision for our community is to deny this request at this particular location. Once again, this was not an easy decision to make because I do love this idea, and I hope that we can if this doesn't pass, I think it may, but if it doesn't, I hope we find another place to do this, because I think this is something really special, and I especially love the part that this idea really does help those entrepreneurs who want to start a restaurant, that this makes it more accessible and easy for them to do that and to start a small business. And I know the one that they have similar in Louisville has a place where kids can play. They have tricycles and big Jenga stacks and all sorts of things. So I just think there's a really wonderful things that could happen with an idea like this. I just do not see it being compatible with this particular section of the Campbell Lane corridor. So I just wanted to explain that before my vote. Thank you.
My guess is, Dana, if this goes, I don't know if it's going to pass or not, but if it does go, or wherever the first one is, that there will be many others. This won't be the last.
I'm excited.
Because entrepreneurs kind of do that. But, okay. Everybody good? Can we call the roll?
Perigin.
Yes.
Beasley Brown.
No.
Denning.
Yes.
Nash.
Yes.
Wilkerson, who is absent.
About time you showed up.
First reading of ordinance BG 2019, number 4.
Ordinance rezoning real estate. Ordinance rezoning attractive land containing 9.9035 acres from AG Agriculture to LI Light Industrial located at 03 Springs Road, presently owned by Christian Life Center, with Golden Flower LLC, care of Richard Feldman, as contract of ND.
So moved.
Motion by Perigin, second by Denning. This is first reading of unanimous recommendation from Planning and Zoning to rezone this property. Are there any comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Perigin.
Yes.
Beasley Brown.
Yes.
Denning.
Yes.
Nash.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. First reading of ordinance BG 2019, number 5.
Ordinance relating to budget amendment. Ordinance approving amendment number 2 to the City of Bowling Green, Kentucky annual operating budget for fiscal year 2019.
So moved.
Motion by Perigin, second by Nash. Mr. Mizel.
Each year, the city does pass a budget in June, and that kind of acts as our starting point. But as you know, things fluctuate and change throughout the year. Things come up. And so regularly, we'll have somewhere between 3 and 4. Some years we've had 5 of these amendments to the budget. And basically what this does, anytime we need to either increase a budget in a fund or transfer money between funds or accept new revenues, we put it in an amendment. So before you tonight, we have budget amendment number 2. It contains some grants we've recently received, donations, some uses of fund balance where we have needs in different funds, and some transfers between funds. And Katie's here, of course, to answer any questions or add anything to my comments.
Are there any questions?
Comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Perigin.
Yes.
Beasley Brown.
Yes.
Denning.
Yes.
Nash.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Last item on our agenda. I don't see a name on our public comments list there beside you, and that just to make sure we draft people from the audience to do our work for us. No comments. So our next scheduled meeting is for Tuesday, March 5th, 2019, and we'll be going into closed session. Thank you for tuning in.
Any action following?
I don't think so.
No action.